Thank you, Mr. Sessions.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I want to thank each of you for being here today. I think that the indications that you have really provided deep details about, every American is aware that there's conflict around the world. We even see conflict here in the United States. And I believe that your insight, for instance, Dr. Mobbs, you probably have a lot of insight in some areas where perhaps the Taliban or others would be directly in confrontation with not just human rights, but really religious intolerance and the use of the various elements of violence against people on that measure. And I would like to vet this issue, if I could, for just a minute. Mr. Curry, I did not have my trusty pen out when you spoke about a resolution that you would like members of this body to be in tune to, but you mentioned a HR number that you felt like outlined good consideration of good policy. Would you mind giving that to me again?
Yes, that's it. House Resolution 82 that calls on the Department of State to redesignate Nigeria as a country of particular concern. It has a request that we appoint a special envoy, which would be able to mediate between Nigeria, Niger, Mali, all of these countries in the Sahel region, which are now affected by these extremist groups who all have a shared ideology, even though they battle amongst themselves for power. This would be a critical thing for us to see passed, and would really, I think, help aid religious minorities in the north of Nigeria.
Thank you. Dr. Mobbs, we are engaged in watching literally on our TVs every day the Palestinian conflict with America's allies, Israel. And it is based on not only hatred and bitterness, but it really on annihilation of the right of the Israelis and Jewish people to exist. You evidently came into conflict or saw this conflict firsthand in Afghanistan and in the Middle East. Could you talk with us about a wise way to look at how we should look at this conflict, and in particular where religion is the key element of discrimination against people who don't read the Bible or the Quran exactly the same way you do?
Sir, I would say that when people tell you what they believe, we should believe them. As you mentioned, Hamas believes in the eradication of the Jewish people and the Jewish state, and we should take them at their word that they will go to every end to reach those end states. And so a wise policy would to take them at their word and support our ally Israel in their eradication of this population that only serves to end them.
So in other words, we would try and encourage anyone that did not follow that ideology to leave what I'll say is Gaza and let the battle ensue?
Of course, I think that the protection of the innocents is always paramount. And I think that the humanitarian corridor must be established for those to leave so that they are not going to be subjected to conflict. I think that absolutely should occur, and that's the best path forward. And we should support Israel, as is their right, to go after the terrorists who perpetuated the evil upon them.
And that self-protection that they would be allowed to, so that in 2 weeks or 6 months or 4 years, they were not faced with this same problem again.
Yes, sir.
Good. Dr. Patterson, you have provided us a lot of what I think is really good information about violators, people who came and have used religion in those circumspects against people. Talk to me again about the Chinese experiment. Are they pushing forth and sending out across the world their ideas about the same things that they do to their own people?
Thank you, sir. Let me mention 2 things about that. The first one is that China's reach, for instance, against Uyghurs and other minorities, specifically Uyghurs, though, is not just internal. They've pushed on countries like Turkey and others across Central Asia to repatriate Uyghurs, Kazakhs and others to China for detention, imprisonment, and who knows what else.
Would that include the New York City issue where the Chinese have police stations?
Yeah, this New York situation, of course, is insidious, and what we've seen is this type of Chinese infiltration in many places around the world. The other side of China's influence is that many poorer countries look at the United States and say, if we take aid from you, you're going to make us do all of these new, novel social ideologies you want to impose on us. The Chinese, they'll give us a low-interest loan, no questions asked. And our organization has heard that very dichotomy from people in Africa and Latin America.
My thanks to the panel. Mr. Chairman, I yield back my